Good evening, YouTube. Welcome back to the channel. This is IMAX Sports with another football video, and today I'm talking about my Week 7 NFL Power Rankings. I do this every single week on the channel, so make sure to check it out next week. I'm sorry for inconsistent uploads recently. I'm trying to get back to a regular schedule, but I've had insane work to do for school. So, I haven't been able to have consistent uploads, but I will hopefully get back to that this week. With that being said, let's get into the video. First off, we have the dumpster fire, as always. The bottom 4 teams this week are the Texans, the Lions, the Dolphins, and the Jets. The Jaguars have been the bottom team for the majority of the season until this week, when they came up with their very first win. I think that the Jaguars are a stronger team than they've looked at the beginning of the year. Trevor Lawrence, obviously, as a rookie, he needs to get used to the NFL. He needs to get used to playing in a professional league. And I think that he's only going to get better. I think that this first win is the first step for the Jaguars to improving their team. The Texans' only win was Week 1 against the Jaguars. And since then, they traded out their quarterback, Tyrod Taylor, for Davis Mills. And Davis Mills has been nothing short of horrendously bad, except for against the Patriots. The Lions have been a weird team. They're the only team with 0 wins left, but the reason why they're above the Texans is because they've played some tough teams and they played them well. They almost beat the Ravens. They almost beat the Vikings. They've had some good games. They just don't have any wins. And then at 30-29, we have the Dolphins and the Jets. The Dolphins had their first win Week 1 against the rookie quarterback, Mac Jones, who had never played an NFL game before. Since then, the Dolphins have not looked impressive at all. They've lost every game, including losing 35-0 to the Buffalo Bills. The Texans lost 40-0. So Miami has not been looking impressive recently. So they're at 30. And at 29, we have the Jets. The Jets are the highest on this list because they have the best win. They beat the Titans, which is a pretty impressive win, honestly. I'm not sure how they pulled that one off, but they did. 29, we have the Jets. And at 28, we have the New York Giants. The Giants beat the Saints, and then this week they got absolutely demolished. I almost switched the Giants and the Jets, but I just think that the Giants have a lot of injuries. Saquon is injured. Kadarius Toney went out. I think the Giants have a stronger team than the Jets do overall. So even if they are slightly weaker right now, that isn't really the case, I don't think, for the rest of the season. This category is not their year. All of these teams might have potential in the future, but not this year. Washington and the Falcons both have 2 wins. The Falcons have beaten, I believe, the Jets and the Giants. Washington has beaten the Falcons and the Giants. Don't quote me on that. I believe they beat the Falcons and the Giants. So I just kind of put these two here, like, slightly above the teams that they beat, because the bottom 8 is set. These are the 8 worst teams in the league, and it's not even close. The order is kind of like a little up in the air, but these are the 8 worst teams in the league, and it's not even close. It's not even a competition. Next on the list, we have I'm confused. We have the Broncos, the Panthers, and the Eagles. The Broncos and Panthers both started off 3-0, and now they're both 3-3. The Broncos' only wins are to the Jets, the Giants, and the Jaguars. So I'm not too surprised that they went on to not win their next few games. That being said, I think that the Broncos have an okay team, but they haven't beaten anyone that has more than 1 win. So I can't really give them much more credit than Washington or the Falcons, who have also only beaten the Jets, the Giants, the Jaguars, teams like that. I have the Panthers here as well because they have also lost the last 3 weeks. Last week they lost to the Eagles 21-18. And then I have the Eagles at 22 because the Eagles have been playing slightly better than these two recently, hence the Eagles just beat the Panthers. The Eagles are a really weird team because they've played some really good teams really well, and then they've also played just some really bad games. I think that the Eagles have a lot of potential. I think that Jalen Hurts has a lot of potential. We saw a lot of that during the Buccaneers game. They played the Buccaneers very strong, and it was a very close game at the end of it. I think the Eagles do have a lot of potential. I'm just not sure what their team is right now. Next category is outside contenders. We have the Steelers, the 49ers, the Colts, and the Patriots. Number 21, we have the Pittsburgh Steelers. This video disclaimer is being made before the conclusion of the Steelers-Seahawks game. That being said, I don't think the conclusion of the Steelers-Seahawks game will have any impact on my opinion. That game went into overtime. I need to get sleep because I have school tomorrow, so I needed to make this video before the conclusion of overtime. But the fact that the game went into overtime and the Steelers were playing against Geno Smith, like, even if they lose, they lost in overtime. I don't think that they're worse than the Eagles. And then even if they win, because they just beat the Broncos last week, I think that they've proven themselves that they are slightly better than the Eagles. And then even if they win this game, they beat Geno Smith in overtime. So I don't think that would put them over the top to be ahead of any of the other three teams in this category. The 49ers have only beaten the Lions and the Eagles, and they were both one-score games. Their losses, fairly enough, did come to good teams. But the 49ers just haven't impressed me this year, and they also have a lot of injuries, and some of their injuries aren't going to be fixed anytime soon. So for right now, the 49ers are sitting at 20. At 19, we have the Colts. The Colts have had a really rough schedule. They've played 4 of the hardest teams in the league. Some of them they've played good games against, some of them not so much. They lost 28-16 to Seattle a few weeks ago, which was one of their not-so-much games. But they have had some really close, really interesting games so far this year. I think that they have a really promising team, especially after winning 31-3 this week against Houston. And, yeah. At number 18, we have the New England Patriots. I think some people might be upset at me for having them up this high, but I honestly think that we have a potential playoff team. The last couple of weeks have shown that. We played the Cowboys this week. It was a overtime game against the Dallas Cowboys, one of the best teams in the league. And we played phenomenal football. The Cowboys had a lot of offensive yards, but our defense had a 4-down goal line stand on the 1-yard line. The third down may have potentially been a touchdown by Dak Prescott, but it wasn't called on the field. There wasn't enough evidence to overturn it. Anyways, there was a lot of stuff that went down in that game. The Cowboys had a lot of yards. Both teams beat themselves. Again, this game came down to poor play calling by either Bill Belichick or Josh McDaniels or both. In overtime, we had a 4th and 3 that they didn't want to go for, and they gave it to the Dallas offense that had been racking up yards like nobody's business, and they only needed a field goal. I could rant forever about how the Patriots could be 4-2 or 5-1 right now because of bad coaching decisions, but I know anyone can rant about their team and bad coaching decisions as well. So I won't do that. I will spare you. Based off of what I have seen, and I know that I am slightly biased just because I have seen all of the Patriots games, so I am more knowledgeable of the team than I am of other teams. I'm more likely to put them slightly higher than other teams, so I apologize for that. In the Moody Teenagers category, we have the Raiders, the Bears, the Seahawks, and the Vikings. The Raiders are 4-2 now. They beat the Broncos this week, but again, considering the Broncos have only beaten the Jets, the Jaguars, and the Giants, that's not too impressive. They also came off of 2 losses the last couple of weeks. One of them being to the Bears, so I figured one spot below the Bears was a pretty fair placement for them for this week. And yeah, they haven't been very impressive since the first few weeks. They just kind of dropped off. And then this week they played the Broncos, and one of the teams had to win. One of them had to break their losing streak. The Raiders did it, so props to them. But they're not looking as dominant as they did at the beginning of the season. They did have a good offensive game, a good offensive showing, so that is positive for them. I just don't think that they are looking as dominant as they used to. At 15, we have the Seahawks. Whether or not they lose or win this game, they're not really going to change. The fact that Geno Smith is able to bring the Steelers to overtime is fairly impressive. They lost to the Vikings with Russell Wilson, so I'm not going to put them above the Vikings right now. But the fact that they are going to overtime with the Steelers with Geno Smith shows that they have a fairly strong team. So I feel fairly confident putting them above both the Bears and the Raiders. Even if they aren't technically stronger than them right now, I think that they will end up with a better record than both the Raiders and the Bears at the end of the season. I don't know when Russell Wilson will come back, but the Seahawks, although they're hitting a rough patch, they're not gone completely. The next category is very promising. We have the Saints, the Bengals, and the Jets. All of these teams have had their rough patches. The Bengals lost to the Bears, which isn't really that bad of a loss, considering the Bears have been doing fairly well. The Titans lost to the Jets, and the Steelers lost to the Giants, and a pretty bad loss to the Panthers as well. All of these teams have had their ups and downs, but their ups have definitely been highlighted. The Saints are the only team to beat the Patriots by more than one score. So they had a really impressive game that week. They also had a super impressive game against the Packers week 1, and they had a pretty impressive game this week as well. The Titans have one of the best offenses, if not the best. They have one of the best offenses in the league. And their defense is just terrible. It's just awful. I really almost put the Titans third in this category, but they haven't played yet this week. And I think that unless they get destroyed by the Bills, they were 11 last week. I don't really think they're going to move down unless they get absolutely demolished, which I don't see happening. I think it'll probably be a 1 or 2 score game. But yeah, if they lose by 3 or 4 scores, then just mentally put the Titans at 13. But for right now, they're at 11. And then the Bengals have just been solid. I mean, they've had some weird losses. They've had some weird wins. They lost in a coin flip basically last week to the Packers after like 5 or 6 missed field goals. So the Bengals have just been playing really solid football, and they're 4-2. So, yeah. Playoff favorites. We have the Chiefs, the Browns, and the Chargers. Currently, right now, I think all 3 of these teams are playoff favorites. The Browns are 4-2, the Chargers are 4-2, and the Chiefs are 3-3. Wait, the Browns are 4-2. The Browns are either 4-2 or 3-3. I apologize, I don't know which one. They lost to the Chiefs. I think they're 3-3. Anyways, the Browns have been playing some really solid football up until like this week, when they kind of got shut down by the Cardinals, who arguably are the best team in the league. So, not really that bad. The Chiefs, on the other hand, played this week against Washington. They had a pretty solid win. I think that there's an argument to put the Chiefs above the Browns right now, but the Chiefs' defense just has been consistently bad. The Browns have had a couple of bad games, but the Chiefs' defense has consistently been one of the worst defenses in the league. And although you need a good offense in order to win a championship, defense wins championships still applies. Hence, last season, Super Bowl 51, Super Bowl 53, defense wins championships. And the Chiefs don't have a defense right now. The Chargers at 8 are such a weird team. They're so weird. They beat both the Browns and the Chiefs, so I'm very confident in putting them at number 8. That being said, they lost this week like 30-something to 6 to the Ravens, who are a very strong team. But they only scored 6 points after scoring 47 against Cleveland. These teams are just really confusing to me. They're definitely all playoff favorites. I'm just lost. There's a lot of weird teams this year. Top tier teams, we have the Packers, we have the Bucks, and we have the Cowboys at 7, 6, and 5. These teams are all just really strong, really solid all around. The Cowboys and the Bucs have both had fairly solid offenses and fairly solid defenses, and they've controlled their turnovers pretty much for the most part. They both played really close games against the Patriots, and other than the close games against the Patriots, they've been blowing everyone else out of the water. The Cowboys are averaging like 40 points a game over the last 4 games. The Buccaneers are coming off of a fairly close game against the Eagles. I know the Bucs beat the Cowboys earlier in the season, and a lot of people are going to yell at me that the Bucs beat the Cowboys by 2 points week 1, so they should automatically be higher than them. But that was 5 weeks ago. It was a 2-point win, and I think that the Cowboys are playing better football currently. And yeah, I just think that the Cowboys are currently playing better football. The Buccaneers had a really uncomfortably close game against the Eagles. A couple weeks after a really uncomfortably close game against the Patriots. So I feel like sooner or later the Bucs are bound to lose a really weird game. I can just see it happening. And then the Packers, obviously they started off with that 38-3 loss to the Saints, but since then they've just been consistently good. Last week was a weird week against the Bengals, where they kind of won again on a coin flip. But in the end, they got the win. They were the better team, and then they played a pretty solid game this week. There's an argument for the Packers to be number 5, but again, I make the tiers because all 3 of these teams are very similar teams. They're all playing very similar football. They're all very strong, and so the number is really just kind of semantics. These are top tier teams, all 3 of them. It's not really a question. And then we have the NFL's elite. Last week I got so many comments saying that the Arizona Cardinals were not the best team in the league. And I think that that is a fair argument to say the Bills are the best team in the league. But look at Arizona's wins. They won 37-20 against number 4, the Rams. They won this week 37-17 against the Browns, number 9. And they won 38-17 against number 11, the Titans. They beat the Titans, the Chargers, the Titans, the Browns, and the Rams, all arguably top 10 teams in the NFL, by at least 3 scores. They're playing phenomenal football. They're undefeated. They've had an extremely tough schedule, and they have handled it extremely well. I know Bills fans are going to say, oh, but the Bills have the most points, the most yards. They haven't played any good teams since, like, week 2. And they lost to the Steelers week 1. Like, yeah, they might have the most yards, the most points, the most... But if the Cardinals had the same schedule, they would have the most yards, points, touchdowns, everything, and they would be undefeated. So, the Bills are the second strongest team in the league, by far. It's not even close. Bills, Ravens, it goes Cardinals, Bills, Ravens, everyone else. Bills are clearly the second strongest team in the league, but the Cardinals have the edge. You can't be undefeated playing 3 of the strongest teams in the league and then not be the best team in the league. At number 3, we have the Ravens, and number 4, we have the Rams. They both playing phenomenal football. They both only have 1 loss. The Rams' loss is to the Cardinals, and the Ravens' loss was to the Raiders, who are now dying, but at the time they're playing good football. Both of these teams are playing phenomenal, and the Ravens are coming off of a 30-something-6 win over the Chargers. So they obviously deserve the number 3 spot, at least for this week. So yeah, those are my NFL power rankings for Week 7. Hope you guys enjoyed. Make sure to leave a like, subscribe to the channel if you are new, and again, I'll try and upload more consistently. I just have not had any time. So, thank you guys for watching. I'll see you guys on the next one. Peace.